So today, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to talk about living benefit. In Columbus Life, it's called Life Plus. I guess Americas they call it Careful Life, or they're all having different name for it, but they're pretty much very similar. And there are similarity and the differences, and we're going to go over that today. And especially today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over actual client brochure so that you can get this brochure from Columbus Life. And as you know, that Columbus Life is one of a very, very few company that they make client brochure in Japanese. So obviously, I wish I could do it in Japanese, but I don't speak Japanese. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do it in English. So this is a very second part, second half of the Japanese brochure. So Japanese brochure in the one section it has Japanese, on the other section it has English. So person like me can actually see what's on the brochure. So we're gonna go over the client brochure, but today's material is obviously it's agent training, but I think you can go over this. I'm not going over anything that is not something that we should be saying to clients. So, but however, it is still agent training you. So, very first page of this, the brochure said, it's a benefit from your life insurance during your lifetime. A lot of times, people's idea of life insurance is not truly a life insurance; it is a death insurance, because they in their mind you only collect benefit from life insurance when you're dead. So we should not call it a life insurance. We should call it a death insurance. However, there are people come along and what they've done for many, many years, they start having cash value on the life insurance and they start using cash value while they're still alive. So we're starting to see a little bit of a living benefit out of death insurance. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is something called accelerated death benefit rider. So you get to use death benefit before you die. So this is a living benefit. It's an accelerated death benefit rider, and in Columbus Life, it's called Life Plus. And I mean, in just summary, what it does is that you actually get to use your death benefit if you have critical illness or chronic illness or terminal illness, which we're going to talk about today. Um, living benefits. Columbus Life's Columbus Life's Life Plus living benefits are provided at no additional premium. So it is a built-in product and it has no fee attached to it. So it's and the client has the option of using it or not using it. If client has this benefit riders and if he has a triggering event, he does not need to take it if he doesn't want it. But if he wants to use it, now it is available for them. Okay. This rider gives you the power to access a portion of your life insurance policy, and so you can actually get a prepayment of your death benefit while you're still alive, right? That's what that means. And then not only that, this good thing about this rider is that if you look at it here, you can use it for any which way you like. It's not a reimbursement. You don't have to use it for medical expenses. You can use it for any which way you want it. If you want to use the money to take a trip of your lifetime, you can do that. If you want to use that money to go back to Japan or Korea or your home country, you can do that too. So it is absolutely free, up to you, up to the client, what to do with that money. Right? There is no attachment. There's no need for bills or receipts or any requirements so that you're getting reimbursement. So it's not a reimbursement program. It is called indemnity program. That means you can use the money any which way you like as long as you have a triggering event. Okay, there are three ways to access this money. One is critical illness, And critical illness in California is defined as this. Critical illness is defined as an individual who has a medical condition that is diagnosed while the rider is in force that would, in absence of treatment, result in death within 6 months. So if you're left alone, if your client has this condition and he's not getting medical treatment for 6 months, he's jeopardizing his life, that means he has critical illness. That's what the definition is. If you go to out of California and other states, normally it's called specified medical condition, meaning that they name the medical condition that you can qualify for. California's definition is a little broader, so I think it is a little better for the client. So if you go outside California in most other states, it is defined as scholar, SCHOLAR. And it is an acronym for S for stroke, C for cancer, H for heart attack or heart problem, O for organ transplant, L for life support, A for AIDS, and R for renal failure. If you have those conditions, and which is critical enough, that's how it is defined in other states. However, in California, once again, is if you're not if your client goes untreated for 6 months, it jeopardizes his life. That means he has a critical illness. If he has the condition, then he can actually claim this Life Plus rider so that he'll get the prepayment of his death benefit while he's still alive. The other way to get the benefit is called chronic illness. Chronic illness is when your client cannot on his own cannot perform 2 activities of daily living out of 6 activities of daily living for more than 90 days, and it is deemed permanent by medical profession. So what are the 6 activities of daily living? 6 activities of daily living are, number one, when you get up in the morning, what do? Toileting. You go do your business. Number two, after you go to the bathroom, the toileting, after you've done your toileting, what do? You take shower or bathing. And then after you take a shower or bath, what do? You put a clothing. So you put the clothing on it, so on yourself, there's a dressing. And after that, what do? You eat breakfast, eating. And then after you're done eating, what do? You go out, transferring. And lastly, as you go every day, and there's some time that you go to the restroom, you have to wait a little bit to go to restroom. And you need to be able to hold. If you cannot hold, there's a problem. That is called continence. So if you can, these are the 6 activities of daily living we're doing every day. But if you cannot, for whatever the reason, if you cannot do it for more than longer than 90 days on your own, and someone else needs to take care of you, and that condition is deemed to be permanent in California, that's what's called chronic illness. Now, on the other companies like Emeritus, they do not require you to have the condition has to be permanent. So Emeritus, as long as it's longer than 90 days, you can actually you actually can access that money. Yeah, you can get cured, but you can still ask for the benefit. 90 days, same thing. Doesn't matter. As long as he had it for more than 90 days, now he can access for it. Now, another condition that falls into chronic illness is when you have a cognitive impairment. So, I mean, dementia, Alzheimer's, if you have that, it's also triggering a factor for chronic illness. So either you have a cognitive impairment, or if you cannot function 2 out of 6 activities of daily living for more than 90 days, right? So that's what it is. So if you look at it here, you talk about eating, bathing, continence, dressing, toileting, and transferring. But I think mine is better. A lot easier to remember. Okay. Now another one is a terminal illness. Terminal illness in California is if your life expectancy, according to your medical professional, is less than a 12 months, then you have a terminal condition. Then you can actually access your death benefit prior to your death. So these are the living benefit conditions. And now we talked about what is a triggering event for you to actually collect your death benefit prior to your death. It's a prepayment of the prepayment of your death benefit. So actually, technically, what it is a lien against your death benefit. It's a lien against your death benefit. Just like some of the policy you borrow against your cash value, what this benefit is doing is that it's loaning against your death benefit. If you understand a little bit about UL or whole life in this permanent life insurance policy, death benefit is considered of two. One is called cash value, and the other is called NAR, net amount at rest. That's a pure insurance that insurance company is doing. So it is a loan against NAR and cash value, both, right? So now, if you have that option, we talked about how to qualify to get that benefit paid to your client. If client has either critical, chronic, or terminal illness, then he can choose to get that benefit. Now the next thing is that how are you going to pay? How is going to be paid out? Are they going to pay you a lump sum? Are they going to pay installment payments? So what it is this: other than chronic illness, both critical and terminal, you must take the benefit in lump sum, which the slide goes on and we'll talk about it. You can extend it in 12 months, but that's a maximum. You cannot extend it any more than 12 months, right? But chronic illness, on the other hand, you can have lump sum just like critical and terminal, or if client choose to, he can get a installment payment. He can get it all the way as short as 3 years, all the way to 10 years. Let's say he has a benefit amount of $500,000. He can decide, okay, I can get $500,000, but I don't want to get it all at once. So I'm going to get a $100,000 for next 5 years, or $50,000 for next 10 years. So any which way the client wants, and client has the freedom to do so, and client does not need to make a decision now, but on the very day that he's claiming, that's when he tell him, hey, this is how I want it. So critical and terminal, it is all single lump sum or over 12 months. Chronic, you can have over 12 months, or you can have it installment payment from 3 years to 10 years, anywhere in between. All right? So each state's a little bit different, but the variation isn't that much. So you want when the time comes, I guess you'll find out exactly how will vary, but in general, that's how it goes. All right, then how much? We talked about how you get paid and how much. Next thing is how much you're going to get paid. Here's how much you're going to get paid, right? There's a lump sum payment. Minimum is a $500. So you cannot ask for $50 on this living benefit. I don't see. I think even $500 is too small for this. But you can get as little as a $500, and there's a maximum you can get. Now, when there's a maximum you can get from your death benefit, the remaining death benefit still stays within the policy. That means your client's family member are entitled to the remaining death benefit, right? So in this very chart, what it shows is that in a lump sum payment option, including chronic illness, you see the critical, chronic, and terminal illness. In all these three options, it tells you how to calculate the maximum benefit amount. The very first thing that you have to put into consideration is cash surrender value. Very first place that money is going to come out is from cash surrender value. But technically, the cash surrender value is not what you're getting. It's a loan against your cash surrender value. So that's something that we're going to talk about later. So very first amount is a cash surrender value. If it is a critical illness, either 10% of NAR, the pure insurance, the death benefit, or $25,000, whichever is less. Let's say you have your client has a $500,000 and he has a critical condition. Now 10% of 500,000 is what? $50,000 or 25,000, whichever is less. So he will get $25,000 plus cash surrender value. That's the maximum he's going to get if he wants to exercise this rider. He does not have to, once again, right? Let's say your client has $150,000 life insurance. Now, $150,000 life insurance, 10% of that is 15,000. It's either 15,000 or 25,000, whichever is less. So which in this case is $15,000. Let's do the full calculation. Let's say your client has a $5,000 cash surrender value, and his death benefit is $150,000. Now he has a medical critical condition. Now he will have 5,000 plus 10% of 150, which is a 15,000, so that he can claim up to $20,000. That's how the calculation goes. On the chronic illness side, it is a less of 250,000 or 50% of net amount at risk. So 40% of net amount at risk. So whichever is less. Let's say your client has a $1 million life insurance policy. What is a 40% of 1 million? 400,000. Can he get 400,000? No, he can only get up to 250,000. Now plus cash surrender value. So let's say he has a cash surrender value of 100,000. Then he can get 100,000 plus 250,000. So maximum benefit he can trigger is 350,000. What if he has a zero cash value? $250,000, right? Terminal illness is 60% or 250,000, whichever is less. So let's go back to 1 million. What's 60% of 1 million? 600,000. Can you get 600,000? No, it is 250 or 600,000, whichever is less. So in this scenario, he will be getting $250,000 plus whatever the cash surrender value he has. That's the maximum. It doesn't mean that your client or my client need to get that maximum. They can apply up to maximum. Let's say our client's maximum limit is 200,000, and he only needs $50,000. He can request $50,000. Okay. If more than one qualifying event occurs simultaneously, then what the insurance company will do is that they'll give the highest condition. All right. So they'll unless you determine what you wanted to do, your client determine what he wants to do. But unless you're telling insurance company what to do, they'll go after the biggest amount condition.
The client has critical illness, which may be
terminal, then you go with the terminal.
but you can choose.
Yeah, your client can choose, but I don't know why would anyone choose it. Okay, so that's lump sum. And as I said before, only chronic illness has payout option, which I call it installment payment. And you can do it over 3 to 10 years. You can anywhere in between. You can do it for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, all the way up to 10 years. So shortest is 3 years. Longest is 10 years. Then how much? How the maximum amount is a calculation is a little different than lump sum. The maximum calculation is 50% of your death benefit up to 1 million. So in this scenario that we just mentioned, if client has a $1 million life policy and he has a chronic illness, give or take on the lump sum payout option, you can only do 250,000. But if you do installment payment, you can do all the way up to 500,000. If he has a $2 million policy, he can do all the way up to 1 million over 3 to 10 years, depending on how long he wants it. Okay? So 50% of death benefit, right? And the one thing that you have to understand is this: it says the annualized amount is not to exceed lesser of annualized IRS per diem limit or $240,000, whichever is less, right? So per diem is about what? About $300 a day, give or take. So that's another thing that you have to keep it in mind. So it can be taxable, but a lot of times insurance company put a limit on it and they don't allow amount bigger than per diem, right? Here's the case study on the brochure, and this one doesn't even have a name. It says terminal illness, a 60-year-old woman own a $200,000 index universal life, and she is diagnosed with cancer and given about 9 months to live. So in this scenario, she had critical and terminal condition. She decided to access the living benefit of the policy, and because she had accumulated cash value of 40,000, she's eligible to access up to 136,000. 40,000 plus 60% of 200,000, which is 120. So if you add them up, well, actually it's 130. 40,000 plus 60% net amount at risk of 160. So if you add them up, what is it? Should be more than 136,000, right? I think net amount at risk is about 100. Oh, net amount at risk is 160,000. So 160,000 times 60%, which will be a little less than. So 160,000 times 60% plus 40,000. So that comes out to be $136,000. So this is how they come up with 136,000 maximum. Okay. So now she decided to take out. She's all the way to 136, but she decided to take out $120,000. So she take out $120,000. Now the amount of death benefit remaining is 200,000 minus 100,000, which is about approximately $80,000. Now, one thing you have to understand: this will reduce the 80,000 will be reduced by interest payment that you have to pay. See, what it is that $120,000 is a loan against your death benefit. So insurance company did not have to pay this client $120,000. They're paying it before the death of the client. So every year they're charging interest. I mean, if you look at it, the interest is about 8% a year, and it's compounding interest. So 8% a year. Somebody saying that, hey, 8% a year is a little too much. I always have two things to say. Number one, if you don't want it, you don't have to take it. Number two, the thing is that 8%, even though it is 8%, who would loan you $120,000 when that person is dying? So it is an excess of money. I mean, if you don't think you need it, and if you think it's too much of cost, you don't have to take it. and you don't have to pay back, right? It's going to be used against your death benefit. Okay. And the next scenario is chronic illness. The couple purchased $1 million Voyager. This is a different life insurance. This is GUL, they call it. And they have chronic condition. This guy had what is it? When he was at age 50, he suffered a stroke at age 85. So now he can function. So what he can do is that he can take out some money. How much money? The couple has a two option. It says couple has a two option: take advance of lump sum payment and receive total of $300,000, or take the advance in periodic payment. By choosing period benefit option, the couple can choose length of time that they would like to receive their periodic payment from 3 to 10 years. With a payment length of 10 years, they will receive 50,000 per year for next 10 years. So if they're taking out 50% of 1 million, the $500,000, they can take it over 10 years if they want to, and they'll get 50,000 a year for next 10 years. Okay, it's determined that all the money up front is not necessary, so they decide to take the advance through a payout benefit option. By choosing periodic payments, smaller individual payment will be received over the course of 10 years, and then this option allows the policy owner to receive a higher total advance while reducing the payable death benefit on the insured less rapidly than lump sum option. So your death benefit will be shrinking, but not all at once, right? That's what they mean. If you take all the money up at once, and if husband dies next year, you already took the money. So your remaining death benefit is already small. But if you've done that in payout option, if you're taking 1 year, 50,000 is reduced, the remaining death benefit will be 1 million minus 50,000, so it's about 950,000 less interest charge and fees, right? So in each of this example, the advance will continue to occur interest until the insured death and will reduce the death benefit accordingly. These examples are for illustrative purpose only and may not include all the potential charges and interest reduction and fees. I mean, we can actually go into the little every details by going over the policy, but we're just going over approximate number. Approximately, the interest rate is about 8% a year. It's compounding, and the fee is about 250 on the initial withdrawal, right? And the interest will be charged upfront. We had a case where the client actually took the living benefit, and after a couple years, she passed away, and the interest was paid up front on the policy date, and she was not surviving the full year. So at the end of the year, the second year that she died, they actually returned that interest that she paid back into death benefit. So they'll do the calculation. And here's another one. Critical illness. A 50-year-old male purchased a $500,000 Explorer Plus Universal Life. So this is not IUL. This is not GUL. This is a traditional UL. At age 75, the client is diagnosed with critical illness. Because of his diagnosis, he can access the living benefit of the Explorer Plus policy. The client decides to advance $25,000 to help pay for medical bills and prescription drugs related to his condition. At the point of this advance, the net death benefit payable upon his death is about $475,000. Once again, it is a rough number, but if you think about it, there has to be a charge. So, all right, and here's another thing. Now, if there's a charge and if there's an interest and it is incurring every year, there can be a issue where a client had a condition and they all thought he was going to die, but he's living and living and living. Let's say he had a stroke, he didn't die, he lived next 20 years. What happened to death benefit? It will be adjusted because the interest is eating up remaining death benefit. but to the client's point of view, he did not really lose much, if you think about it, because he already took the prepayment of death benefit, right? Now, if this happened, if you take the advance and it was the interest was coming to the point where we depleted completely the remaining death benefit, what the Columbus will do is if you do take advance through your Life Plus accelerated death benefit rider, you have the comfort of knowing that your beneficiary will still be able to receive death benefit. With the Columbus Life residual death benefit, policy with a death benefit of 75,000 or more will be eligible to have $10,000 remaining death benefit, regardless of what happened to remaining death benefit. If the interest actually eat up your remaining death benefit, you still have $10,000 for the family. Yeah, but the initial death benefit has to be more than 75,000. Now, if you go with Emeritus, that's 10% of your death benefit. It can be a little more. So if you do the 250,000, it's a 25,000, and you have an option of purchasing 20% if you want to. Okay. And obviously, this is pretty much wraps up the mechanics behind the living benefit. Now, what we need to talk about is, hey, who's going to help you? It'll be you guys. It'll be us. It'll be Epi-Digm agent. We actually do the personal care and we design the case and we actually help the client when they need to actually access this money. Speaking of accessing the money, here these are the things that you need. Number one, written request for the advance. So you have your client need to say, hey, I'm going to take the advance. And number two, written consent of any irrevocable beneficiary and any assignee. Anybody who has a right over the policy also need to sign it, right? If you have an irrevocable beneficiary, they need to sign it. If your policy is assigned to the lender, a lot of times I see that happening. That collateral assignment, they need to release that also. They need to consent to that advancement of the payments. And obviously, what we also need is a medical evidence of this. This is a qualifying event, right? And written designation of Columbus Life as an assignee of the policy proceed equal to the amount of that benefit received plus occur interest. What it is that they're lien. Once again, this is a lien on your death benefit. You're not getting direct payment of your cash value or NAR. What it is that they collateralize your NAR and your cash value, and the insurance company is lending you money. That's how it is mechanically done. So what you need to do is, as a client, you need to assign Columbus Life the ownership of the amount that you're actually getting, right? Just you have to think of it as a loan paperwork. Okay, with the Columbus Life Universal Life Policy and its Life Plus Living Benefit. So this on the Columbus Life, this is only available with Universal Life. There are other company who also has this living benefit on the term insurance, but a lot of times term insurance they have something called discounted method. They don't use a lien method, so their calculation of the benefit amount is a little different, right? And you have a peace of mind during your lifetime while providing lasting legacy to your loved ones. Now you can focus on what is most important, enjoying your life and enjoying your family. So you can actually do that. It's not that difficult. We've done that a couple of times with our clients, but these are what is needed. And it talks about Columbus Life. Why Columbus Life? Columbus Life has a very good historical background, and their financial strength is very good. And now that their product is very straightforward and easy to understand, and that's why I like it. Okay, but we do not have to go with the Columbus Life all the time. We still have an option, but we decide which option is the best for the client. Okay. Now, this is a disclosure at the end of the sales brochure. You can actually read it, but you have the thing. Now, here's a question that I submitted to both Emeritus and Columbus Life because they're the one who's using lean method. National Life and AIG, they don't use lean method. They use something called discounted method. Discounted method is that when you take the when there's a triggering event, you tell the insurance company that I want to get the living benefit. That they'll what they'll do is that they'll charge interest upfront and pay you reduced amount of benefit. Here's what it means. Let's say you have $1 million and you want to take out $400,000 as a living benefit. Your death benefit will be reduced by 400,000, but you will not get 400,000. What they will do is at that point or prior to that point, they can predetermine the amount they're going to charge. They'll see what's the life expectancy of you, and they let's say it is 8 years, they'll charge 8 years of interest upfront and give you remaining money. Let's say that remaining money is 260,000. Client is receiving 260,000, but that benefit will be reduced by 400,000. Is it bad? No, it's not bad, but it is kind of hard to explain to the client because it's a prepayment of that benefit. They do need to charge interest, and the difference is the discounted method. They are charging it upfront, very upfront, so that everything's all done and taken care of at the very end, very upfront. On the lean method, what they do is that they give you $400,000 minus first year's interest, and then when next year comes, they'll charge interest again from the remaining death benefit. So in my opinion, it is a lot easier to explain with the lean method. That's why I like it. But some people may like discounted method. But on the lean method, now my question to the home office was this. I have a question for you about living benefit and cash value. I understand that living benefit is a lien against death benefit. And I am wondering how obtaining the living benefit will affect the current cash value. Will the current cash value be put out of the current index crediting and put it into loan reserve, just like when you do the policy loan kind of scenario? I just wanted to make sure if it is a loan, so you're not getting that money. So if it is a loan, will that cash value still incur index crediting? Or if it is a fixed account, will it still get interest on the cash value? I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. With Columbus Life, it says from Columbus Life, Todd is the guy who is in the product development. I confirm, and yes, you will still have the ability to experience the interest gain on the cash value in the policy. Still growing. So here's what happened. You took out the death benefit. From the death benefit, what I told you, part of it is NAR and part of it is a cash value. The cash value amount is still there. It's incurring interest from your index or FX or whatever account you have. So your cash value, even though it is a lien, so you cannot use it, but it is incurring interest. Now, on the other hand, you are liable for the loan that you have, just like policy loan. It's incurring at 8% per year, also, right? This is I like this because your cash value isn't just sitting there; it is actually working and gaining some investment gain, right? Now, and I just got the answer from Emeritus, and which we already know because he already mentioned it, but I wanted it in writing. That's why I sent him an email, and he sent me back this email saying that if a client has a $500,000 policy with a cash value of $250,000, accelerates $200,000 for living benefit, they'll have immediate access to 50,000 because obviously you had a 250,000, so you have an access to 50,000. So 50,000 is not going anywhere because it is not a lien. That 50,000 is still freely yours. Of this cash value following the acceleration, the total of 250,000 is still in policy. The 250,000 of cash value is still in policy and partaking in indices. Following the accelerated, the client would have a remaining death benefit of 300,000 because you have accelerated $200,000. Essentially, when an acceleration takes place, there is a hold put on the cash value in the amount of acceleration, which is 200,000 in this scenario. So you cannot use that money, but $200,000 cash value was still growing. It is still experience index crediting. No money is removed from your policy. Loan reserve. It is still stays within. And I was pleasantly surprised with Columbus Life. For some reason, I had an impression that the money will be taken out and put it into loan reserve. So I sent an email to Sam, and Sam forwarded to this Todd guy who is a product guy, and he did some research, and lo and behold, it is experiencing index crediting.
So both companies are doing
the same thing. I love it. All right. Now here's a case study or example. This is the one example that I really love. It's called 10-10-10. You put a lump of money for 10 years. You put a little bit more than what normally people will put in a life insurance, and you put it in there. And you, after your 10 years done, you don't put any more money in. And so since you put lots of money up front, you have a big cash value, and that big cash value will gain more compound interest, right? By index crediting. Now you let it sit there for the next 10 years. So you put money in 10 years, you wait next 10 years without putting any more money. And then what you do on the 21st year is you start taking out same amount of money that you put in over 10 years. So in a nutshell, what's going to happen is that at the 30th year, your total cost to the policy is zero. Because you put money in 10 years, you waited 10 years, you took out all the money that you put in 10 years over the next 10 years. Even after you took out all the money out on the 30th year, what do you have? You still have $636,000 life insurance, and you still have $363,000 cash value. So it's almost like it costs you nothing, but now you have $363,000 cash and $600,000 death benefit. And if you want to use $363,000, you can use it, and it is tax-free, right? And if the client dies, that $636,000 will go to beneficiary, and it is also income tax-free. Let's say along the way, let's say on the 5th year, client put the $26,000 a year for the next 5 years. On the 5th year, if he dies, total amount of money that you put in is $130,000. The client's family will receive $1 million. If emergency comes, the surrender value on the 5th year, you got $87,000. You can use that $87,000 income tax free. I like this scenario. This design is really good. I call it 10, 10, 10, triple tens. You put the money first 10 years. You waited 10 years, and after 20th year from the initial point, you start taking money out just like what you put in, just in the same amount that you put in. That way, after 30 years, you got washed. It didn't cost you anything. But what you have, you still have a policy with cash surrender value and the death benefit. It's an option one. I mean, you can use it to option two, but I would use option one, right? I like this, all right? But what if you get sick along the way? And that's what this chart will show, right? If you look at chronic illness, here, chronic illness maximum payments. So this is a periodic payment, 3 years, 3 to 10 years, depends on how the client wants it. Let's say it happened on 5th year. On the 5th year, client is entitled to get up to $467,000 living benefit. And obviously, he does not get it all at once. He can spread over 3 years or 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and all the way up to 10 years, right? So what's the remaining death benefit? It's about half. So remaining death benefit is $500,000. Now another option he has is that if client has a chronic death condition, then he can take out on the fifth year, same fifth year, he can take out all the way up to $317,000. This is a lump sum. He get it over 12 months or all at once, right? And remaining death benefit will be $662,000, right? That's not bad. Or if he has a critical illness, on the fifth year, it'll be 108,000. Remaining death benefit is 887,000. If client has a terminal illness, life expectancy of less than 12 months, on the fifth year, he can access 317,000 or remaining death benefit of $662,000. This is a very, very straightforward illustration, and I love this about this Columbus Life IUL. I think no other illustration shows this clear. It can be very clear and precise. I mean, it's not really precise because cash value is not really precise cash value, but you can actually see this because it is lean method. So that pretty much wraps up today's presentation. It's 5 minutes shy of 1 hour. So any question? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into a YouTube video and post it, and